Hey everyone, this is Ketchup here, and it's time for something a bit different. Vianality 2025 was a celebration of all things Mortal Kombat, and as such they ran a tournament for MK9, X, 11, and 1, one of which being part of the pro competition. The Mortal Kombat 9 tournament was tons of fun, and, truth be told, the main reason I made the trip out to Austria in the first place. I was fortunate enough to win this tournament, and seeing as I haven't really won a tournament in a long time, and there's very little MK9 going around these days, I thought I would make a video that I'd go over my matches, and talk about what was going through my head, analysis, and all other important details for stuff you might not have noticed. So, let's get started and talk about the top 6 for Vianality MK9. So just a little bit of background on this tournament, I suppose, is that it was definitely a throwback event. It was people that had grown up playing Mortal Kombat 9 or had played it a little bit down the line, all that good stuff. And we kind of had a mixture of that in the top 6. It was meant to be top 8, but unfortunately the event was running pretty late, which is kind of standard for fighting game events. Mortal Kombat 1 had so many close games that things kind of ended up going a lot longer than planned, which means that the later days, you've got to finish at a certain time, so that's why there was a top 6 for this game instead of a top 8. Now, in regards to, you saw Foxy Grandpa in that, Foxy had been sent to losers by Azerbaijan when they played at the start of the tournament, and Foxy, true story, forgot that this was a one-day tournament, so he actually went back to his hotel and went to sleep because he still had other Mortal Kombats to play the following day, so unfortunately, he had to get DQ'd. Now, my opponent here is Slaw, who was actually, and this is sometimes almost unprecedented for Mortal Kombat 9, Slaw is a slightly more modern player. He was playing the game himself and trying to learn it. I'm not sure how long he'd been playing for, but he did mention to me that he really wanted to just keep playing and keep grinding. So, to be honest, Cyrax was a really good choice for that. Before I get into anything, though, if anyone's wondering why did I keep showing the Turok Rage Wars cartridge, they actually cut to me on the player cam, and I say, Night Dive, you know what to do. I really want them to remaster Turok Rage Wars. I think I'm probably the only person in the building that understood that reference, but it's what we do to get the remasters of our favourite games. Also, remaster MK9 while you're at it, NetherRealm. I'd love it. I'd love to see it. But yeah, I mean, this entire tournament was just really fun. It was kind of just a celebration of Mortal Kombat 9. And I kind of went into this top, like, I keep wanting to say top 8, this top 6, pretty motivated. I mean, I hadn't really had the chance to play Mortal Kombat 9 in a really long time, and I think that's kind of the case for everyone that was in this bracket. And when I realized that my first opponent on the winner's side of this, final section was playing Cyrax, Mustard was meant to be at Vianality, and unfortunately came over with a really horrible case of the flu, to the point where he was bedridden, he'd lost his voice, he was unable to attend the event, and I really wanted the two of us to fight each other like in the grand finals, because I feel like that could have definitely happened here. So fighting a Cyrax in this tournament that's not Mustard, my whole point was you'd better know this matchup better than I do, because if you don't, you're in trouble. So there's a lot of that happening in this match. I mean, the very first net that Slaw threw, I immediately instant air teleported, and that's a humongous part of this matchup. I don't really mind getting hit by the command grabs. The big thing about this matchup is you just don't want to get hit by a net or a standing hit confirm, because that's where the crazy damage comes in. And you'll notice again, I reacted to yet another net. If you're on it with your reactions, Cyrax cannot throw nets in this matchup, even at close range. Sector's instant air teleport is one of the fastest teleports in the game. I was caught backwards moving there, so I didn't trust my ability to sort of come out of block and then immediately punish. So every single net doesn't necessarily get punished in this matchup, because you have to know that you're safe. If you mess up an instant air and get hit by a net, you're in trouble. And again, that was the same sort of thing there, that I was caught jumping, so I didn't want to overcommit. Slaw does a couple of things that I think are definitely a hallmark of someone that's a little bit newer. A big one being using things like the raw EX bomb. Slaw, if you're watching this actually and you want a little bit of advice, not patronizing, of course, you don't want to use the EX bombs as Cyrax. You only ever want to use them when you're in a combo. It's just not going to be worth the meter otherwise. Meter for Cyrax is so important because meter equals death combos, meter equals meter drain confirms. You know, you can spend 2 bars of meter, one of which on the meter drain and the rest on the combo, and then maybe even 2 more bars if you want to, if it's going to guarantee the win. That's the best place to do it. And I did do a lot of fatalities in this finals. I know that when it comes to Mortal Kombat, things have gotten a little bit strange, I guess, that doing fatalities is seen as like bad manners or something, but in Mortal Kombat 9 the fatalities are really fast, and look, everyone did them. Everyone did fatalities in this game. They were sick, they were cool, they were reminiscent of the classic games because they were short and snappy. But yeah, back to the match. This matchup is essentially, it is actually a losing matchup for Sector, mostly because most of the time Sector cannot spend meter unless you're getting hit by, you know, these sort of combos. I chose to break here. Normally that's a terrible, terrible break. However, with Slaw not having any meter and us being so close, I was still confident that I could win the round. Hence, going in for a breaker and taking that gamble. Normally you never want to break against Cyrax unless the meter gets spent. And if you see no bar, you kind of just let the combo rock because you just have to save it. In that case, though, I definitely accidentally just walked right into that. And we do see our first Cyrax reset. This one's slightly less damaging, which is so weird to say. You know, less damaging still does like 70%. Unfortunately, Slaw did get the back 2 a little bit too early, so you didn't get the bomb explosion. Overcommitted to the teleport because I really wasn't sure that Slaw would, like, sit there and block off the regular hit. A big thing about Sector is leg lift mix-ups. You can jail with up missiles on the opponent's wake-up, and then you can do up 3, which is Sector's leg lift that goes into an overhead low, both of which are pretty hard to react to. The low's hit confirmable, and the overhead, although it isn't because it's a single hit, you can go into EX teleport to be safe if they block the overhead, which is really, really nice. Lets you go for some cheeky resets. But the second you get within a close range, you kind of have to stop throwing missiles. You really can't play around with the Cyrax damage output. However, a lot of pressure in the corner. It opens up things like the back 3-4, opens up the back 1. You saw there, successfully blocked my overhead, so I did commit to the EX. However, Sector does have a wake-up attack, and if you teleport out of the corner with the EX, Sector gets a full combo that does really, really good damage. You saw there, it was back 2-1, and then you do the 1-2-2 to finish up missiles. I tried to do a close missile there, but I accidentally got the wrong input. That can be a little bit of a trap sometimes. We get a full combo. Choose not to spend the meter, because I'd rather go in for the leg lift situation. Slaw wasn't quite ready for the follow-up, though, and I choose to spend it here, knowing that I'm going to build that extra bar of meter. And this could be an opportunity for Slaw to come back. Unfortunately, though, those mid-air combos, they're a bit tricky to time. You know, you need to have extremely specific confirms for that to work. But overall, I'm just very comfortable in this matchup. The EX teleport just in case. And you may notice I wasn't blocking here because I wanted to send a message. I wanted to say, ain't no Cyrax that ain't mustered in this tournament beating me. Here comes the Babality. I miss Babalities. And actually, fun fact, that's the first Babality in tournament I ever landed. I really wanted this tournament to be kind of like a collection of all the things I never really got to do in tournament back in the day. And the Babality was definitely one of them. Who gave this baby a bomb? So I did actually want to show this match in particular, just so I could give you a little bit of background over both Azerbaijan and Star Charger when it comes to Mortal Kombat 9. You may recognize both of these players mostly from Mortal Kombat X. However, both players did start in Mortal Kombat 9 back when we all did. Star Charger was one of the original North American players, and he's been a Kitana loyalist ever since then, probably even beforehand. And Azerbaijan was a player that never really got to compete much in MK9 just because of territories and everything else. It was very hard for people to travel back then. However, Azerbaijan, talking to me, said that he did play the game just religiously online, so basically playing it the same amount as the rest of us. Chose to go in for Johnny Cage in this tournament, mostly because if this is a throwback tournament, Johnny Cage is, in this game, one of the easiest characters to A, use in general, and B, come back to if you haven't played the game for a hot minute. This character's offense is some of the absolute best in the game, and it's so overwhelming. On the other hand, though, Star Charger The Kitana in this game, very, very combo focused, but there's a few little bits and bobs that Star Charger was doing to people that you could kind of tell people hadn't played this game in a while that they might have forgotten about. And I think one of them being the wake up fan slash, I guess you can call it. I don't know the actual official move name, we just called it like the fan slash or something. You'll notice that a little bit later down the line. But the big thing here is that when Johnny Cage gets in, within jumping distance, he's got really good jump attacks, he's got really good hit confirms, the launching back 3 will just catch any button that you try to press, and if you get within that forward 3 distance, you're generally in big trouble, because he can jail you with his green projectile EX, he can easily hit confirm it into a nut punch, which goes into even more offense, and of which it's a restand, so you can't wake up attack. This character is an absolute nightmare, and there's a reason Johnny Cage was always popular in the competitive side. Because yes, you can somewhat keep him away, but he's got a full screen armored shadow kick that hits mid, so you can't crouch it. And it's kind of the only counter-zoning tool that you need, really. The stage sizes make such a difference, too. I mean, we're fighting on the pit in this match, and if you're fighting against someone as rushdown heavy as Johnny Cage and you're playing a defensive character, you actually kind of need the stage advantage to give yourself a better chance. The pit is the shortest stage in the game, so when you have rushdown characters, they want the pit because they don't want to have to spend the entire game chasing you, trying to close in distance. If you go on something like a rooftop day, which you see later on in this video, it's a very different story. Whereas Star Charger has far less real estate to work with, purely just because Azerbaijan has less work to do, in essence. That's just the nature of Johnny Cage in this kind of matchup. But able to get that first round, that's really, really important to get in this situation. Committed to the forward 2-1, just knowing it was going to work, so you can get yourself a free launch. But again, wake up fan slice. That's such a huge part of Kitana, but definitely a knowledge check. And you have to be careful for those last minute launches too. It was really nice to see Star Charger again. I know both of these players were competing in Mortal Kombat X the following day. Yo, check out the chip damage on EX fan slash, by the way, that's so good. And Star Charger just trying to keep distance. You've got Square Wave to try and not get jumped in on, recreate that distance again. The wake up fan slash from a range that is so deceivingly long. It's a really, really good tool to have if the opponent's a little bit overzealous. As a matchup I haven't seen in some time, Kitana was a strong, like super, super solid character, but wasn't particularly popular in Mortal Kombat 9. I think by the end of the game and all the crazy top tiers that were established, there was a lot of Sonya, an absolute ton of Cabal, not as much Kenshi as you would imagine. Most of the time people think of just Pig of the Hut when they look back at Mortal Kombat 9 tournaments. I think if this game had a remaster, we would see significantly more like Kenshi, just because of how easy he is to use and how bearing his zoning can be. But who knows? You know, maybe if this game gets some kind of remaster, we'll see a shift in what kind of characters become extremely popular. Because I have a feeling we might see some changes, but story for another time. Lovely reaction on the EX shadow kick there to keep Azerbaijan from getting kept out, and enough to win the round, so you've got to take it. For anybody wondering actually who was commentating this event, it was two UK legends. You had Falcon, who had actually, Mortal Kombat 9 was his first proper fighting game, so did a fantastic job on commentary, had never commentated this game before. And then Noob, who is putting in like tons of work into Mortal Kombat 1, really sort of started properly in Mortal Kombat 11, but in MK1 has started to thrive with crazy Melina teams and all these like weird combos and stuff. And because it was late and other people that could have commentated MK9 weren't there for various reasons or whatever else, Noob just said, you know what, if you need someone to commentate, I'll jump in and do it, and just sort of did the best he could with the limited time that he had. So I got to respect both people for jumping in and doing a good job on commentary for this. Unfortunate cross-up situation there, Star Judge getting the fan lift in the wrong direction. Just MK9 things, we never question it. Caught again, forced to use the break. Holding on to breaker in this game is so important for certain characters. I mean, that's the thing, right? That extra low that you have to watch out for Kitana, the low is better to take than the follow-up hit, because if she does the version that launches, it's just so much more rewarding for her. If you have the reactions, great. If not, then, you know, just take the low.
Yeah, I had to use it.
And that's Johnny Cage, big jump-ins. That's just what this character does. Johnny Cage's jump-ins are so good that you can throw a million projectiles. All man needs is one jump, and he's just going to completely flip it around. One jump is a really big combo into Nut Punch, into guaranteed restand, into more forward 3 business.
You can't believe it.
It's not great. It's great for the Johnny Cage player, but it's not great when you're on the receiving end. And it's one of the main reasons that Azerbaijan picked Cage for this. I feel like if Azerbaijan was more prepared, might have gone in with the Sonya, because I know that Azerbaijan's like a really big Sonya fan. So it would have been a really good choice having Sonya in this game, but there were like 4 Mortal Kombat tournaments this weekend. You know, you can only prepare for so many of them, and I think going in for the Cage was a good idea. Azerbaijan actually entered all 4 games, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy. I don't know how anyone could do that. You just juggle them. Foxy was another one. I'm trying to think. I think Foxy and Azerbaijan may have been... I think they're the only 2 players at Venality that entered all 4 games. I could be wrong. Oh my god, the reaction parry. I forgot about that. Johnny Cage's instant X-ray parry, and he can combo from it. Didn't manage to get the micro dash though, so didn't get the back 3. But with punishing forward 2 with the X-ray, I mean that's just rude. And has to down 1 there. If Azerbaijan confirmed into Nut Punch, the game would already have been over. But at that point, it's too much work. It's too much work. So it created winners finals between myself and Azerbaijan. We'll be getting into that shortly, but overall, that was just a really good showing. Even down to like the reactionary X-ray. I mean, Azerbaijan, you know, man still got it. Man still got it. And I guess we'll be checking out the winners finals up next. Okay, winners finals. This is a little bit rough for me. This is one of my least favorite matchups as Johnny Cage. I find it really hard for Sector, and I always have. You'd think that Sector has tools to kind of keep Johnny Cage away from you. And to an extent, that's very much true. It's just that you have very little to deal with his forward 3 pressure. And if you get put on the corner, it's basically over. He has ways to make your wake-up attacks whiff. He has ways to kind of prevent everything. We actually did do the rock, paper, scissors for player 1, so that I would have player 1 advantage. And because of that, Azerbaijan got to pick the stage, which is why we are currently in the pit, because that is the smallest stage, as I mentioned earlier on. I want to point out something as well. Human Sector has 1 better combo string than Robot, so Human is better statistically, even if it's marginal. And for this tournament, I went in with the player 2 color, because it's orange, and, you know, orange is yellow and red together, ketchup and mustard. Haha, I'm so smart. It was more the fact that Mustard wasn't here, so I wanted to represent in some way or another. It was a strong first round, and you'd think I've got this in the bag, you know, with that sort of comfort. But then very quickly it starts to go wrong. I was breaking at incorrect times here as well. I think rust is coming out of everybody. When you're breaking Johnny Cage, you don't want to break that. You want to wait for him to do like a nut punch or a hit confirm, and then you break the jump in or something similar, just to give yourself a lot more space. Azerbaijan did try to capitalize on that. I go for an up missile situation. Get the low. He has the combo breaker available, because that would have been really good on my part. And you got to watch out for the jumping of Johnny Cage. You get within jumping range, like you kind of know the jump's coming, and you have to be ready to try and sort of deal with it. I tried to anti-cross-up, don't get it. Anti-cross-ups in Mortal Kombat 9 are really, really difficult. And I got greedy there with the teleport. I definitely got greedy. But this is the magic range for what you just saw there. When the second Johnny Cage gets within that jumping distance, you kind of have to avoid the temptation to constantly try and immediately throw a projectile, and it's better off waiting for the jump, because if you get jumped in on, it's a really, really bad situation to be in. Trying to create even more distance here, but Azerbaijan is just doing a really good job of sticking to me, and that's really what Cage wants to do. The jump kicks are really smart as well. The jump kicks may seem confusing because the jump punch has more reward, being a jailing string. The thing is, jump kicks are even harder to anti-air than everything else, and anti-cross-up standing ones are notoriously unreliable. I did try and delay my wake up there to avoid the forward 3-string, but it just didn't work out. But it's a scary situation. Getting jumped on this game is really, really powerful because anti-airs are definitely like notoriously unreliable in general, especially those standing ones, which can be really good. Some character standing ones are super, super strong, and Sector's isn't terrible, but it is those anti-cross-ups. Like, it worked there because Azerbaijan didn't commit to a jump in time, but most of the time, you do kind of just get chewed up for trying it, and the risk just does not garner the reward in a lot of cases. And speaking of stages, you will notice that I did go in for the rooftop day. I wanted to take the pit away from Johnny Cage as often as possible. You just don't want this character to have less room. You want to have that space that you can play your neutral, try and keep Johnny Cage just at arm's length as often as possible. He does try and go for an anti-air. That's where I get a jump in. I try and go for my missile setups. Now, Azerbaijan does actually know the way of getting around that for Sector. Sector doesn't get a lot of jailing up missiles if you tech roll. That's how it forces Sector to do a far missile on a read, and even then, it's more just to lock the opponent down on wake up. You don't really get any pressure from it. So Azerbaijan, very, very intelligently, was going for wake up tech roll every single time just to get away from these up missiles that I was doing on Meaty. I go for a jump there, almost got anti-aired. I tried to anti-cross up again and just got shredded. And in the blink of an eye, you have no idea how fast this game is. From this point, I go for a pick that is kind of confusing to a lot of people. I think even Mustard watching it back home was like, wait, what? Noob Saibot? Why? I hate the Johnny Cage matchup. I can't stand it as Sector. It's a horrible matchup in my opinion. At least it's a personal bad matchup for me. Noob Saibot is the complete opposite of just pure defense and trying to keep distance, trying to keep this character away. And I kind of had a feeling I was going to lose this winners finals, so I wanted to use this possible final game just as an opportunity to see how Azerbaijan handles Noob Saibot, because I actually always did play Noob in this game. He was always my secondary. I never used him in tournament because tournaments were not common, you know, and if I'm playing in tournament I would just pick Sector all the way back then. Things are different now. You know, I have other characters that I enjoy to play, and if I feel the matchup is better off with a certain pick, then I would give it a go. And this was the first time I've ever used Noob Saibot in tournament. So even though I do, spoilers, lose this match was very, very important to me to just see how he deals with the Noob Saibot keep away. And as you'll see, he's kind of not having a good time. It's a very uncomfortable matchup for him. I don't get the impression that he was familiar with high-level Noob Saibot because this character was almost never picked in competitive. Easily one of the most uncommon characters. Is definitely one of the weaker characters in the game for reasons of if you know the matchup, he really starts to struggle. But in this kind of setting where you're not sure if your opponent knows the matchup too well, this is where someone like Noob Saibot can really start to thrive. And again, he's really struggling with the Noob Saibot keep away. So I think for me personally, the most important single match in this finals was this match right here. Not across the board. I mean, for me, the most important match for me was the information I gathered from this match is just more important than anything, because when we eventually fight later down the line, I know that. You know, this information is locked in. And I almost win this match too. I do get put in the corner, so it's pretty bad. Bad situation. I just go for a big jump in, just trying to get it. Wrist and anti-air. I get an air-to-air as well. Forgot that the EX shadow kick was a mid. For some reason, I thought it was a high. You can actually see me there going, I thought it was a mid. I thought it was a mid. The handshake comes through. It does cut deep because I almost won that match, and I'm just like, bro, I forgot. And it was very frustrating. However, I was extremely motivated to get that run back. Look at Azerbaijan's cheeky smile as well. He's like, ha ha, got you, bro. But yeah, like I said, this was a super important winners finals. That final match for me gave me all the information I needed, and you will definitely be seeing that Noob Saibot again throughout this video. Right, it's the matchup with Star Charger. I was very excited to play this match because although Star Charger and I have been in the space for the same length as each other, we've both been around since like the early Mortal Kombat 9 days, we've played all the games, right? And we have never actually played any of the Mortal Kombat games against each other. This was the first time we ever did it. And that was actually something that Star Charger mentioned to me while we were sitting there, saying, you know, Ketchup, this is the first time you and I have ever played Mortal Kombat against each other. And I'm like, excited. I'm excited to finally do it. Especially when you couple the fact that I didn't fight a lot of high-level Katanas back in the day. I had knowledge that I retained, but she wasn't extremely popular in Europe, so I didn't get many opportunities to fight this character. However, starting things off here, there is one thing about this matchup that I always remembered, and I saw that Star Charger was getting away with a lot, even against Azerbaijan, because I think, honestly, it's such a small piece of information, a lot of people just forgot about it, which is completely fair enough in a game this old. Yeah, Kitana does hit like a truck, by the way, so don't get hit by this character. The second I land a hit, I want you to notice something that I do. Trying to remember how this matchup goes. Cheeky whiff punishes are important. Kitana and Sector both have powerful space control tools, so it's kind of a matter of who can establish their dominance first, in a sense. The back one for Sector is very important, that sort of palm blast. The forward two, the same sort of thing. Lovely confirm there from Star Charger. And there is the punish. The wake-up slash for Kitana is really strong if you block it. However, the attack is a high. So, oh yeah, this is a scramble. This is a scramble. Star Charger tried to punish with down one, but I was airborne as well. What a mess. A mess in the best possible way, and one that Star Charger came off better in. But yeah, that wake-up slash is a high attack, so it's immediately something that you have to shut down for Kitana players, is to tell them that they cannot do that attack on wake up. Because if they do, you just duck it and punish it. It's as simple as that. The EX square wave in the air, really good stuff there from Star Charger to sort of deal with the projectiles, keep me in the corner. Unfortunately, my jumping into string just didn't jail there, which is another thing that you can see happen in Mortal Kombat 9 if you're not quick enough with your jump-ins. Reactionary teleport. One of the things that Sector is so good at in this game, instant air teleport versus projectiles. You spend a bar and get 40% damage off a single projectile. One of the strongest things that this character has. Look for a whiff punish there. Acknowledging that I'm minus, so always happy to throw out those low pokes when Star Charger blocks the back 3-4. He's not letting me get away with it. I was a bit late on my punish there, so you do have to be pretty tight with it.
I can't remember the notation for that Kitana move. I don't know if it's like down forward 2 or something.
Would have gone for a hit confirm, but Star Charger had the breaker available. And this sort of thing in the matchup's pretty common. You're having a zoning war where both of your projectiles do a similar amount of damage, but the benefit that Sector has is that Sector's projectile knocks down. That is something that has basically always happened in NetherRealm Mortal Kombat. I go for a jailing thing here, the wake-up attack, go for a low hit confirm, the breaker comes out again. You do build breaker incredibly fast in this game. And I kind of foresee a ranged jump, so the wake-up flame burner, active for so long, so good at catching it. I do have to try and break here, but Star Charger doesn't give me the chance to break. And that was a very, very, very close match there. Star Charger was playing so sick in that final round. He caught the air fans, and if you constantly go for like instant air fans to continue, none of those can be broken. So Star Charger almost got me there. That was very, very cool. You can really tell that he's just a Kitana like expert. So many Kitana moves. In these older games, MK9, MKX, instant air, constant fans in combos to prevent them from breaking has been one of her strongest tools for, well, basically a decade at this point. Over a decade, almost. Anyone wants to see the kind of damage that Kitana can get? 38% damage, and that was with the fan lift being a little bit too far away. Star Charger went for the big damage, but you have to be so close for that to work. Big, big damage on Kitana's side. She's a really hard-hitting character in this game. I'm pretty cheeky there. I just go for a raw jump in. There's the instant air again. I did do the EX, though, just in case. The benefit of Sector's teleport game is that if you're unsure you have enough time to punish a projectile on reaction, you can just do the EX teleport. You get similar damage, but not as much. But you have the benefit of it being safe. You know, if they do recover in time and block, you're not going to get punished for it. That's another round on the board there for Star Charger. And when you look at the screen positioning, this is an interesting game because you can't ever truly lock Sector down unless you're point blank in the corner, kind of like this. I got a lucky jump out. Star Charger went for a string that was just a little bit slower, so I was able to squeeze a jump out and get safer. Lovely overhead block from Star Charger as well. And this is another element of the matchup. If you see Kitana jump, a lot of her jumps you can just turn into... Are we going to get a mix-up? The pretty kicks. I'm going to finish my train of thought in a minute because this is a close round. I can't fully remember what happens here, so this is just kind of nice to watch back. This was such a fun tournament, man. I had such a good time. Waiting for the low poke. I was going to try and take my turn with punish. Okay, there we go. We're back in business. But what I was saying about this matchup is if Kitana jumps, the only two things that she can do really while she's airborne, square wave and the fan toss. The fan toss is the main one. But for Sector, if you see her jump and you know that she's either going to jump normally or do a fan, you can actually just teleport it. You can teleport it and punish. And especially if she does the fan, it keeps Kitana in the air for even longer. That is an unfortunate drop there from Star Charger. A reactionary teleport again to just shut down the tech roll from Star Charger to avoid the missile. Acknowledging that I'm getting a lot of these up missile setups, and the tech roll is how you beat that. Homing missile, watch out! God, I love the homing missile. I think the homing missile is my single most favorite move in all of Mortal Kombat. It's so cheeky for closing out rounds in MK9. It's even more ridiculous in Mortal Kombat X. They actually were aware, I think, in Mortal Kombat 9 of the homing missile's ability to guarantee a round. The homing missile in this game actually does 0 chip damage. It cannot chip you out. So you have to use the homing missile in combination with other attacks that might jail from it to get your chip, which might be unsafe, might require you to overcommit. But the homing missile on its own doesn't. And that's where it was new in Mortal Kombat X, where Triborg Sector, the homing missile actually did do chip, which was actually a huge, huge thing. And you'll notice in Mortal Kombat 1, it's exactly the same sort of situation. Being able to chip out with its tracking homing rocket versus something that does no chip, it's a very different story. I get the whiff punish there, which forces the break of Star Charger, wake up EX teleport, as I don't do many of those in this tournament. The occasional teleport just to keep the opponent on their toes and to let them know you're not afraid to let it rip. They have to start respecting you, unless they have a string like or a button like a down 4 to make it low profile. Oh, my NJP whiffs! I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. Homing missile. Yep, just create the chip. You'll notice there, no chip damage. And that's the big difference right there. So I'm on match point. I'm extremely motivated in this match. Like, you have no idea how much I wanted to win Mortal Kombat 9 at Vianality. Like, it's my favorite game. Like, this is... For a long time, I said that my favorite fighting game of all time is Ultimate MK3, and I still absolutely love that game, but I gotta say, MK9, over the years, really is... It's overtaken it. Like, MK9 for me is my number one. I love this game so much. Warts and all, I have to say, because obviously it's not exactly the most balanced game out there, and it definitely has its fair share of rather important bugs that would rather not exist. But it's the game we played, and it's the game that we just had so much fun with. It was the start of so many stories and journeys for people, myself included. At this point, I'm in a good situation, though, because I've got 3 bars of meter. I can spend a bar if I want to and still have a combo break. I have a EX teleport available, which is going to be great for combo conversion, reactionary teleports, kind of anything you want, really. But this on its own is a good enough situation. I've got the life lead. I'm winning the zoning battle. I can just continue to create this space and have so much defensive resources on the back foot. I let one teleport go. Star Charger does catch me with the forward 2, so I had to immediately break. That would have been a ton of damage. And Star Charger looking for it. Whiffs the pretty kicks, though. And that could be the final sequence. Back to full screen. I don't even try and pressure there because I didn't want to mess around with the wake-up attack. I didn't want to mess around with the tech roll and having to chase down. I didn't need to do it, you know. So I just went back to a neutral state. And it was a comfortable win. You know, GG's to Star Charger. He was there mostly for Mortal Kombat X, but he did want to play MK9 as well because, like I said, it was the starting point. He's the following day. He was. I can't remember what he was asking. He was asking me about something to do with my character, I think, and I can't even remember what the question was. But just like that, run back time, grand finals, and I have a rather clear plan, shall we say? Right. It's time for the grand finals, and I mentioned this earlier on, that the final match of Winners Finals, I went in for Noob Saibot, and that game was entirely just information being downloaded. I needed to know how comfortable Azerbaijan was versus Noob Saibot, and to be honest, the answer to that was not very comfortable. You can tell when people aren't super familiar with fighting Noob Saibot in this game. And that was a giveaway, right? The constant just trying to get caught jumping, looking for an opportunity to jump. The up kicks being a complete nightmare. The wake-up kicks at a weird sort of position. How do you sort of deal with possible portal situations? So starting this, I had a lot of work to do because I was on the loser side of Grand Finals. I was like, right, I am immediately going in for Noob Saibot, and we're just going to fire off on all cylinders. So the positioning of this is so mad. Like, Noob Saibot's up kick on block actually sets up for a rather perfect awkward jump if they're not prepared. And throughout this set, I get a lot of those jumps because they are just so awkwardly positioned. And it's zoning for the rest of it. You're constantly like, right, I'm full screen. You're Johnny Cage. If you have no meter, that means you have no EX shadow kick, you have no armor. This is where I want to be, and this is where I'm going to stay. However, if he gets even one good jump in, that's where things can start to fall apart. Because Noob Saibot has no damage. If you're in the corner, his damage is okay, but he really struggles to get you in the corner. And his setup potential, which is this kind of stuff, is entirely dependent on the opponent's matchup knowledge. There are foolproof ways to get away from portal stuff, but the opponent needs to know the matchup in rather extensive detail, I would say. Because if you don't, you get caught by stuff like this, which hits really hard. And there, I just wait for him to jump. The EX I could block from that distance. You can't shadow kick. You can't do anything else. I forgot what Make-A-Wish was. And I know that this is one of the most famous fatalities in the game. And I couldn't remember the range either, so I almost messed it up. But here it is. Make-A-Wish. In its full glory. Beautiful stuff. Thoroughly disgusting. But when you're doing these older Mortal Kombat games, you kind of want to show them for what they are. We got some fatalities on deck? Hell yeah, I'm going to do fatalities. I have a possibility to maybe do a Babality? Hell yeah, I'm doing a Babality. It's just a great way to show off what this game actually had in it. No uppercuts, though, unfortunately. I did actually remember going into this, I looked up the input for both Sector and Noob Saibot's Toasty boost. We didn't get a single Toasty in this finals, though, because the characters' uppercuts that are that height aren't really a thing with Johnny Cage or Noob Saibot, so you wouldn't really see those uppercuts to get the Toasty boost in the first place. But I wanted to be prepared. There's another setup. I just go for another portal. It's not as plus on hit if you do the immediate back two, because there's less gravity, they fall to the floor a lot faster. But you're looking at the matchup kind of as it is, extremely range dependent. The running shadow is an overhead, the slide is a low, which gives you an element of an overhead low at close range. However, both options are unsafe on block, so you don't want to get too comfortable throwing those out unless your opponent is just consistently getting hit, you know, because it is an unseeable overhead low. Blocks the low there, tries to get the punish, but I think I was a little bit too far away, which was good for me. Again, an incorrect break from me. I should be waiting for the follow-up there rather than breaking the knee, because it puts Johnny Cage further. Too far away to get my portal set up. I do go for the EX, but was not ready for him to get hit at all. My down ones are whiffing all over the place. I'm just chopping the air. Lovely wake up there from Azerbaijan, just to continue that corner presence. And this is a scary situation. I look for a down three because that's one button that Noob Saibot has that's really good. That down three is incredibly strong. I think I try and do his other fatality here, but I couldn't remember it. It's the one where he, the clone appears and pulls them into a portal. I thought I remembered the input, but clearly not. Clearly I forgot it. And I didn't want to pause the game again. Mostly because I didn't actually want to take myself out of the zone. I was really in the zone here. There's something about Noob Saibot when you play him enough that you just get into this real flow. It's hard to explain, but there's something about his buttons and his moves that when you're in there, you just... everything feels a lot more consistent. Just controlling the opponent. Mostly to do with like distances and ranges, I think. You'll notice there I did a break afterwards. I waited for the jump in, and that was the correct break, is to put Johnny Cage further away. So that's something that I've remembered to start doing. I actually got a message from Mustard, actually, after the winners' finals. He was messaging me online, and he said, Ryan, don't forget that you're supposed to break afterwards, because I'd completely forgotten. I tried to punish, but Noob Saibot's 1-2 doesn't combo into anything, so I should have done 2-1 instead, and I would have got a combo. Yeah, Mustard reminded me that I needed to break after the combo finish, like the nut punch or the restand, rather than doing anything else. There's the punish I was talking about, by the way. If he does block one of the overhead lows correctly, he does get a forward 3, so you're taking a pretty big gamble as Noob Saibot to commit to that. But like I said, it's unseeable overhead low, so the occasional time I definitely try my luck anyway. I jump kick to make it harder to anti-air, a huge thing about this game, I mentioned it earlier. Jump punches can be anti-aired, jump kicks, very difficult to anti-air. Really good air-to-air there from Azerbaijan. Even with my player 1 advantage, Azerbaijan was just quicker on the draw with that jump-in punch. Waiting for the jump to anti-air up kick, because that is, he can jump with a kick, jump with a punch, doesn't matter. The up kick will knock him out of the air, and that's ultimately what I want. Try to create some distance. Azerbaijan, the grabs, wonderful stuff as well. Goes for very little grabs. You may be asking yourself, why do Johnny Cage players not grab that much? The main reason is, the grab puts the opponent out of that horrible situation. If you throw the opponent as Cage, yeah, you're going to get grab damage, but at the same time, you're putting them at a safe distance, and they're out of forward 3 distance. So you're kind of doing them a favor. Although to close out the round, different story. So Azerbaijan used it to win the game. And once again, I go to Rooftop Day. We had some sort of stage, and I think it was the Bell Tower. And the second I lose a game and I get the choice to choose stage, I'm like, right, Rooftop Day, for sure.
So if he's trying to dump it, he's getting caught clip by it, just neutral dump it.
I actually can't remember. I don't remember if the shadow kick is mid. It might be.
Oh, he gets an almost perfect jump through the clone right as it was starting to disappear. And at this point, Azerbaijan is just so sick of getting like crossed up with those jump-ins, he goes for an uppercut, which is again a really, really good option. However, not one that I have to care about too much because the uppercut is marginal damage. Whereas, you know, I don't want to get full comboed, I don't want to get hit by like a back 3 or a standing 1. This is reset point for me, so if I win this game, I essentially send Azerbaijan in the loser's bracket to join me, and then we start another 3 out of 5. That's kind of how the double elim bracket works, for those that didn't know. Azerbaijan goes for the forward throw because he doesn't want to throw me out of the corner. I let the jump in whiff, but my whiff punish is way too slow. Another jump, but again, jump-in's whiffing. Again, MK9 things, we don't question it. I didn't want to spend any meter here, though. That was the one big thing, because ultimately, I haven't reset this bracket yet. Azerbaijan, if he wins this round, it's 2-2. He only has to win 1 more after that, and the entire tournament is over. So I'm very careful with my resource management. If you get a perfect up kick, you can turn it into a combo like that at the cost of a bar. But they have to get caught by the up kick kind of over your head where you can get the 1-2. You see there, I did it a second time in a row. That's a opportunistic confirm for Noob, but it's a very important one to remember. He doesn't confirm into nut punch, so I save my break. A really good anti-air there. Oh! My string whiffs. We EX just to get extra damage. I literally could get no other damage there. That was the highest damage I was getting from 2-1-2. I did tell you Noob Saibot's damage was pretty ass. And there's the air-to-air. So, the reset happens. We go back to character select. From this point, Azerbaijan is well acquainted with the Noob Saibot matchup. You know, he's still not comfortable. He's definitely not comfortable. You can see it in the gameplay. But, Armory. If I remember, actually, I think the Armory is another smaller stage. I'd have to go back and remember what the different stages are like for distance. Most people only remember it as pit, smallest, rooftop, biggest. That's kind of all you need to know most of the time. I was cycling out the Noob Saibot costumes as well because I wanted to just show the different costumes. This one's really cool because this is what Sub-Zero wore in the early part of the story. Like, the Bihan Sub-Zero, sorry, before Noob Saibot. So having this one be just Noob Saibot, but all scaled out. Oh yeah, by the way, oh, that conversion is so sick, man. That conversion is so satisfying. I can't explain it. Noob Saibot isn't a good character in this game, but man is he fun to play. Gameplay-wise, this might be my favorite version of Noob of all time. The anti-air cross-ups fresh into this new set is something that Azerbaijan will try and remember. Doesn't want to risk the back 3, doesn't want to risk the standing 1. The uppercut will anti-air jump punches, it will anti-air jump kicks most of the time. I don't need that because I've got up kick. The second Noob Saibot's got up kick that can be a combo, it's a good anti-air on its own. It's just kind of the one-size-fits-all tool. A breaker once more because I absolutely would have turned that into even more. That was another bad break, but that had a bit more reasoning behind it, mostly because of the health situation. I did not want to give Azerbaijan any more health to play around with. So as long as I can just save myself as much as possible and go back to this range, I'm pretty happy. Crushes the wake up shadow up kick, and that's a huge part of this matchup once again. If you time your meaties, you can actually hit Noob Saibot before the up kick becomes active, and that is something that you need to remember. But it's also something that requires timing, and I would guess lab time. Not that you could really lab it in this game, because the training mode is a lot less refined, we'll say, compared to future games. It was in its infant stages for sure. You had basically no training mode tools to work with whatsoever. So testing that kind of wake up, almost impossible.
Jump in.
My back two whiffed. Love it. Gotta watch out for getting hit here. I got 3 bars. One of the reasons Azerbaijan grabbed in that situation. And I just get a raw jump in. I straight up just get a raw jump. Oh yeah, he tried to go back to character select and I went, no, 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 go back. Show the people the gnarliest x-ray of all the land. It's disgusting. Yeah, the second I did that, the crowd in the back, you actually heard everyone go, no, 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 go back, go back, go back. It's one of the curses of the restart match and stuff like that is the just not being able to see the cool stuff, I guess. We turned on the no blood code from this point, so there are no more finishing moves in the rest of this, the tournament. Sorry about that. But it's all about optimal gaming, you see. This was the final Mortal Kombat that had the option to turn blood off, by the way. MK9 still had the combat codes. And all it took was, I think it was holding up and pressing 1. It was one of them. It was the one on the left-hand side for both players. That's how you activate no blood. So there's no blood, as you guessed. There's still battle damage, which is still pretty gruesome. But there's no finishing move. There's no finish him. Everything's actually much quicker when you turn on the no blood code. Slow on the forward 3. Did try and get a punish again, but another anti-air for me. Just waiting for a possible jump. I think Azerbaijan was looking for maybe an up kick to whiff punish, and I kind of knew that. I'd just go straight in for the tackle. The tackle would have been much better for the jump too, because if he instantly jumped, I think the tackle still would have caught him. This is one of the positions that Noob Saibot does actually have very good control, is corner positioning when you've just had an up kick blocked. Because it pushes you back to a perfect range, or if they jump, you can anti-air. You're in range for a back 1, a dash in back 2, a down 4. All of which decent buttons for when the opponent's in the corner. I don't want to get shadow kicked here, but also not super against the idea of him spending meter. Tries to go for a confirm. If you do hit that forward 3-3 back 3 in the air, in the corner you get a nice combo into nut punch ender. Jump kick, completely whiffed, so I just get hit instead. Get off me. Oh, I didn't get my back 1. I was looking for it too. The second Noob Saibot gets you in the corner, if he hits you, he actually can go in for the EX Ghost Ball, which prevents blocking, it messes up your controls. The issue with this set is every single time I hit Azerbaijan, like here, perfect opportunity to do EX Ghost Ball and just set play him to death. Johnny Cage builds so much meter, every single time I hit him, he had breaker. But he doesn't here. My 1-2 whiffed, which made me so sad, because that combo would have won the game regardless. However, a swift jump in's going to take care of it. And now, one more game. You know, there's one more game and I win the tournament. I don't want to lose focus. It's just one of those things that you look at an MK9 tournament and think, you know, how important can it be for people? This game is everything to me. Like, professionally, competitively, this is a very, very, very special game that has... it's responsible for so much of where I am today. The second you see a tournament for it at Viennality, which is the biggest European Mortal Kombat tournament, ran by people that just love the game, they love the franchise. I mean, come on, that's why they had 4 Mortal Kombat tournaments at Viennality. It was all the NetherRealm ones, so it was 9, X, 11, 1, 1 being pro competition, which even that tournament was fantastic as well. I hadn't won a tournament in a very long time. I really, really wanted to take this one home. Especially with Mustard not being able to attend. That's a confirm into X-Ray. Probably could have confirmed it into EX Teleport, but if there was even a 1% of doubt that that combo wouldn't have killed, I only had about 5% health left, so... you build so much bar, it's like, I'm just going to guarantee the round. I'm going to do that instead. And it's tournament point for your boy. The entire set, Azerbaijan did do some nice adaptations, mostly towards... how I go in for the attack. like the anti-air choices, placing some slightly different buttons around, not getting clipped all the time. Still was unaware of the portal situation, though, where you have to tech roll. You have to tech roll and jump. That is how you get away, but I feel like it's just such a weird knockdown. Azerbaijan wasn't fully prepared for it. Getting chewed up by Johnny Cage, and that's just meter for me, so I don't really mind it too much as long as I get sent far away. There it is again. I'm so close to building X-Ray, and the reason for that is, once I get my X-Ray, he jumps in, I X-Ray anti-air, and that's going to be the end of it. I mean, this was like such a fun tournament for me. I've turned this down, actually, because they do play some music at the end that YouTube doesn't like, so I'm going to completely avoid the chance of that happening. And that's the end of the tournament. GG's to Azerbaijan. I spoke to him afterwards, and he said, when he used to play against people online in Azerbaijan and that part of the world, he was really, really acquainted with all the top-tier characters and the top-tier matchups. And outside of that, the low-tier characters just weren't really picked, so he wasn't ready for those matchups, you know. And I guess that's a story to be told, is to always be prepared. But this was my analysis and breakdown of how I was fortunate enough to win Vianality for Mortal Kombat 9. Night Dive, if you're watching, Turok Rage Wars, mates. Make it happen. Make it happen. I should have held the cartridge out there for longer. And, oh yeah, by the way, I had that cartridge because I didn't realize it was in my bag. I'd visited Mustard the week before, and we just played it in person, and it must have stayed in my bag. I didn't bring it with me just for that, I promise. I promise I'm not that weird. I'm only a little bit weird. But it was a fun tournament, had a great time. Hopefully you enjoyed this analysis of Mortal Kombat 9. And if you want me to do more of this for maybe some of the other games at Vianality, perhaps even Mortal Kombat X, which was the following day, happy to do it again. So I appreciate you all for checking this out. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Long live Mortal Kombat 9.